first major victory for the anti-apartheid movement, even though it wasn't a big victory because it only dropped the fares about 10 cents or 35 cents. But it's the first time that it showed that protesting actually works and can actually create change.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. When we're talking about dropping the fare, like, it sounds dismissive to say it's only dropping it by a couple of cents, right? It's better to conceive of it as it's dropped the fare 1/3, right? Because we're dealing with like different numbers and stuff with like cost of livings and stuff like that. So I think it's better to talk about it and to think about it as like a third of the cost, right? So that's better because that helps make the victory proportional, right? All right, so it's important because it's the first Black victory, and it's also important because it succeeds in what it needed to do. So that's absolutely correct. Nicely done, Anya. All right, how is this bus boycott different than the Selma bus boycotts? Or I'm sorry, Montgomery bus boycotts. Claire, can you make a comparison for me? Claire, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Selma bus boycotts were more about
Montgomery.
segregation, were more about segregation, and this was about just like them going to work and having like most of their salary spent on their bus fare, and it was like an example of nonviolence, which also the Montgomery was.
Okay. All right. So they're similar because they're both nonviolent, they're both boycotts, they're both successful, right? But they're different because of the goals of the organizations. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Claire. All right. So it's a very, very common question that they're going to ask you this on the test in the spring, is they're going to ask for elements of the two movements, and they're going to have you compare the two movements together, right? Like this whole paper, I think it's your first paper, the prescribed topic paper. This entire paper is basically a comparison paper that you're doing. The format is a little bit different, and we'll practice the actual formatting of the test a little bit as we get going, right? But all of the questions are going to have kind of at the root where you're going to be comparing these two things, right? And they'll talk about something like compare nonviolent protests related to the transportation industry between these two, right? And what they're looking for is Montgomery and Alexandria bus boycotts, right? Like, or it'll be something like compare the transportation industry, compare the education, field of education, compare the role of women, compare the role of, the relationship between business and the government, so it's going to be something like that. So as we're moving forward into these things, we need to be looking for these parallels and defining these parallels because you need to be prepared to articulate that in an essay. Cool? All right, so let's move. We are going to be introduced to a bunch of people today. We have to get to know a bunch of these people. And with the US movement, I was able to kind of give you the people in like little bits as we go, because the US movement has like a lot more of these organizations. With the South African movement, like so many of them are organized with just the ANC that you kind of get like this info dump of people, right? So sorry, it's going to feel like kind of a list of people today, but that's just the way the world is. So we just, we live with the world we have. All right, so probably the most important person in the entire movement is the guy on the screen right now, Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela is probably the only name that any of you have heard of before, of course. He is the face of the movement. Nelson Mandela is one of the youngest in the movement in the ANCYL. The ANCYL gets absorbed into the ANC, and they take over the leadership of the ANC by the end of the by around 1952, 53. The old leadership is basically gone. So Mandela is one of the primary architects of the Defiance campaign, and he is very much responsible for the nonviolent approach of defiance in the beginning, right? Mandela is citing Gandhi. He cites Gandhi. He's referencing Gandhi, right? He's talking about Gandhi a lot when he's doing this. By this point in time, India has gained its independence. Gandhi was successful. Gandhi is dead, right? He was assassinated after independence. So Gandhi's dead, but just because he was killed doesn't mean that he wasn't successful, right? His movement was successful. Kind of like Martin Luther King. His movement was successful even though he was assassinated afterwards. Same kind of a deal. So Mandela is citing that, and he's citing that as successful. Okay, he's one of the chief architects of nonviolence. He is also our loudest and clearest voice for racial cooperation with non-African groups, with non-Black groups. He spends a lot of his time in the background, kind of ameliorating the conflict between Xhosa and Zulus. And he also brings in Indians into the fold, and he brings in sympathetic whites into the fold as well. Mandela is probably our clearest voice for that, clearest voice for this like Rainbow Nation concept. And this is not going to be a voice that everyone is going to be doing, right? I'll give you some of the leadership that does not agree with Mandela, right? They don't agree fully with Mandela on this, but Mandela is the clearest one. He's a complicated man, and so because he's a complicated man, there's some stuff that goes on here. He does get involved in terrorism later on. In the beginning, he's this like clear voice of nonviolence, but he does get into terrorism later on. No killing people, but blowing things up, blowing up trains, blowing up buildings, that kind of stuff, right? But no killing people. So that's something that it's a heavy decision that he makes when he goes into that. But by the 60s and 70s, the movement is going to turn into something pretty close to a terrorist campaign. Okay, so let's go to our next person, Walter Sisulu. Walter Sisulu is probably our next most important person after Mandela. Walter Sisulu, he's going to be the leader of the ANC for these like formative years, these early years here. Sisulu was ANCYL, and now by 49, he's leading the ANC. He is responsible mostly for combining these four groups together. He is part of these like really early days of the ANC, where the ANC is trying to figure out what they are, right? They're trying to figure out like what their name is and what their group is and what they stand for. And Sisulu is going to be the one who is most credited with getting these groups kind of all to mesh together into one integrated group. He, over the course of his career, he's going to stand in opposition to Mandela because he is going to advocate for more action. He's going to advocate for violence. He's going to advocate for terrorism. And he's also going to advocate for the idea that this needs to be a Black movement and that the non-Blacks should not be part of the movement. Right? He does integrate the Indians in here, but he's never fully comfortable with having Indians in the movement. To his mind, the Indians should go back to India, right? And he says, India has its own movement. They should go home. They should go back there, be with their own people. And definitely the whites should leave, right? Sisulu doesn't really believe that sympathetic whites are a thing. Like he thinks that the whites are basically, none of them can be trusted. This is where we're going to get into, he's going to be one of the two founders of this organization here called Umkhonto Wesizwe. Umkhonto Wesizwe. You absolutely 100% need to be able to say it and spell it and use it. Umkhonto Wesizwe. This is one of these vocab words that I know it's tough, but sorry, that's life. All right, so everybody take your mic off right now and give me a good Umkhonto Wesizwe. All right, we're gonna do this. Everyone, I'm gonna count down. On mic, unmute yourself. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Umkhonto Wesizwe.
Do it again, but do it better. Umkhonto Wesizwe. Okay, you guys gotta mute yourselves again. That was terrible. All right, I think that's going to be the sound in my nightmares. All right, so so you guys are all like out of sync and stuff, and my own voice is in the background. It's a nightmare. All right, anyway, regardless, you need to be able to spell, use, know, say the word. Umkhonto we Sizwe. Okay, Umkhonto we Sizwe is an organization that we're going to get to know better later on. They're going to enter the scene later on. For now, what you need to just know is that's the terrorist organization. Okay, that's the terrorist organization. They're going to show up in the 60s and they're going to be there through the 60s and 70s, right? So for now, they don't exist, but they will enter the story too. Okay, all right. Umkhonto we Sizwe, it's a Zulu word. I forget what it means. It's like tip of the spear or something like that, or like it's a type of spear. Anyway, all right. The last of the big three that you need to know is Oliver Tambo. Oliver Tambo. Now, in addition to being one of the founding members of Umkhonto we Sizwe, one of the early leaders, he also has this glorious mustache. I think we can all take a moment and respect that. You know, that's a pretty good mustache. Yeah, Joyce looks like she's really enjoying the mustache. I get it. I get it. I get it. All right, so Oliver Tambo, you'll notice on these dates here, he's the leader of the ANC, and you'll notice he's the leader of the ANC for a very long time, from 67 to 91. That's because that's the time period where the ANC is illegal and basically doesn't exist anymore. And Tambo is exiled from the country. So we're going to get to a point in the 60s here where all of these leaders are going to be either killed or arrested. Tambo is one of the ones who survives, and he gets smuggled out of the country, basically. And so he's not in the country, and then while he's out of the country, the government exiles him, so he's not welcome back. So he's the leader. He's the leader of the organization for this really long time period where the organization isn't allowed to operate in South Africa. He's also going to be the primary leader of Umkhonto we Sizwe, from there. He's going to be running like recruitment camps in Zambia, in Botswana, in Zimbabwe. He's going to be running recruitment camps. He's going to be running training camps. He's going to be organizing like terrorist operations with Libya and with other countries all over Africa. He's going to be getting weapons from the Soviet Union. He's going to be doing a lot of that kind of stuff. And that's where he's going to spend most of the anti-apartheid movement. He'll spend it outside of South Africa. He's also falling directly into a moral gray area. As we're going to get going here, Umkhonto we Sizwe, the early terrorism stuff, you can see, and geez Louise, coronavirus. All right, so the early terrorism stuff, they're blowing up like train tracks and things where there's no victims, right? There's no people being killed. They evolved from blowing up train tracks to throwing grenades into cribs, right? So it's going to take a dark turn. By the time we get to the 70s, things are not great. Things have taken a pretty dark turn, and Tambo is connected to all of that. Okay. Here's some of our non-Black people involved. We don't have, so the only really important white people that you need to know in the movement are Joe Slovo and Ruth First. They're a married couple, and they're Jews from Lithuania. They're a Jewish couple from Lithuania that they immigrated down to South Africa after the Bolshevik Revolution. And they are communists. They're communists, and they are actively involved in all aspects of this. They're both going to be writers and authors and organizers. Ruth First is actually going to be one of the most prolific writers, where she's going to write article after article after article. If you look her up online, you'll find hundreds of articles and stuff, and essays that she wrote about lots and lots of different apartheid topics and stuff. She's also pretty much very plugged into this concept of like global communism and spreading this idea of global communism. The ANC and Umkhonto we Sizwe always are going to kind of have this sharing agreement with communism, right? Where they're not 100% communist, but they're like communist adjacent, right? More so than Martin Luther King and Martin Luther King's movement, right? If you guys, in the US movement, did I talk about communism very much? Not really. A little bit, but not really, right? And after the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, um, King does start talking more and more about communism and National Socialism and stuff like that. Like he does start talking more about that, and that's why he gets killed. But the South African movement has a marriage to communism really early, and basically the whole time. Okay. The next guy here is Dudu, Yusuf Dudu. Yusuf Dudu, he's going to go to jail with Mandela. He's going to spend most of the time in jail. He's kind of like our leader of the Indians. He's our leader of the Indians. He's a dentist by trade, a dentist turned civil rights activist. And he's not famous for his dentistry. He's famous for his civil rights work. But he is going to be our most high profile Indian probably. And he's going to be part of the trial. He's going to be thrown in jail. He's with them. All right. Okay. So all of this, I'm saying that there's not a whole lot of white leaders, right? I do want to acknowledge that there is some white participation. Okay. So we have two organizations. One of them is relatively important. One of them is, I think, more interesting than important. But the first white organization is NUSIS, the National Union of South African Students. This is a white student organization in the University of Cape Town and the University of Witwatersrand. They are going to do what you would expect college students to do. They're going to protest, they're going to boycott things, they're going to be out picketing in the streets, they're going to be, doing what college students do, right? It's the 60s, it's the height of counterculture, the whole world is protesting, so they're involved. They are important later on as we get going. They're going to be spreading around a bunch of ideas and stuff as we get going. But in the beginning, they have this kind of conflicted relationship with the ANC, where the ANC and Umkhonto we Sizwe don't really want to work with them, but they also like allow them to operate. Like it's this kind of like bifurcated kind of non-cooperation, right? If you think about the United States, we have like the SNCC and the SCLC and CORE and all these groups that are like intertwined with each other, right? A lot of people are kind of members of multiple groups and working together and stuff like that. NUSIS is not really working with the ANC very much, and they're not really coordinating with each other very often. But NUSIS is kind of going to always be a nuisance for the apartheid people. You see? I have to assume that they knew that when they were making that name. All right, the other organization I think is more interesting, but they're less important, is an organization called the Black Sash. Now, first of all, they get credit for having the coolest sounding name. That's a pretty cool name, the Black Sash. That's a pretty cool name, right? Umkhonto we Sizwe is a pretty cool name too, but Black Sash, that's a good one. Right, so the Black Sash is a group of middle-aged housewives. It's a group of middle-aged housewives, and they're like middle-aged white housewives, mostly in Cape, and they are called the Black Sash because they wear the black sash, right? They wear this black sash, and basically what they do is they all just like go out in their housewife clothes and they put on the sash and they just stand next to politicians while the politicians are like talking to the press. And so the politicians will be like interviewing about like building a railroad station or something like that, right? Something completely unrelated to apartheid. And they're talking about like repairing a bridge or something. And you'll have like 8 of these like women with a black sash, just with their head down, standing in the background, not causing trouble, not blocking traffic, not doing anything. They're just standing there. And then what eventually starts happening is the press starts looking at them and going, what the heck is these ladies doing in the background? And then when the press would go ask them, then the women would say, we're standing here as this moral authority against apartheid, right? And then they would talk about how apartheid needs to be ended. They speak oftentimes in like really Christian messages, right? They would say, Jesus wasn't a racist. Jesus wants everyone to be equal. Jesus wants us to protect the weak and protect the poor, right? And they would talk about this in like overtly religious ways, right? And they end up having this kind of moral authority because they're all just like middle-aged housewives, right? They're not rabble-rousing teenagers. They're not Black. They're not terrorists. They're just little ladies with sashes on. Right? They're kind of tapping into this like gender idea that we've talked about in class a bunch, where women and men are treated differently in the public square, right? Where men are treated more commonly treated as a threat, and the women are not. And it gives the women a degree of freedom that the women are able to kind of go places and not be harassed by the cops in a way that the men don't have that freedom. Right? Does that make sense? I think this will be good to start here. Rashmin desperately needs a nap. So we're going to go ahead and stop here. But what I do want to share real quick, if you look on all of these videos, are on my screen. All right, so stop sharing here. The test questions are on the homepage for my class. You should have seen it. It's in like bright highlighted colors up there, right? So on Tuesday, you guys will do outlines, and I'm gonna put the test up on Tuesday after your class. Basically, I'll put the test up on Tuesday, and you guys are gonna do it as homework. But I'm gonna give you a heads up now. I intend for everybody to get it done by Wednesday evening. If you wait to do it, then it locks, and I'm going to put all new questions in there. So if you want to do a question that you're prepared for, you need to do it by Wednesday night. Okay? This is the only way that I can ensure that you guys aren't going to all be cheating with each other and, paying people to write your essays for you and stuff like that. Right? So you guys will get, anybody who doesn't do it within the window of time is going to get completely new questions that you are not prepared for. Got it? Does that seem fair? Are we good to go? Okay. I will give you time on Monday and Tuesday to do the outlines. So, right? Online people on Tuesday will work through the outlines and we'll talk through them, like we've been doing before. Other than that, if you guys have any questions or problems, who's my EE people? Whoever is I'm the EE advisor for, you stay on, but everyone else, you guys are good to go.
Can I ask you a question, Vinsha?
Yeah, what's up, Kai?
Did I miss something? Because this one felt really short.
I don't know. I can make it longer if you want. Rashmin was like,
I just didn't know. Sorry.
No,
it just was like,
it thematically works to cut it where it is. It thematically works to cut it where it is. Otherwise, we end up, because the two events, they like go together, and so I want to do them together in the same day. You know what I mean? Like, that's why. Yeah, but I mean,
that makes sense.
I can keep talking if you want me to.
Oh, it's okay. I was just wondering if I missed something, because I was like, well, that went by really quick.
Yeah, well, have a good day.
Yeah, have a good day.
Enjoy your day.
Thank you.
See ya. Thanks, guys. My EE people. All right, Maddie, you're good to go. You're already scheduled. And who do I have for on Monday? I have Vin, right? Right. Tuesday I have Maddie. Wednesday I have, who did I have on Wednesday? It's Dylan. Dylan, is it Thursday? Did I have Pooja? Is that right? Okay. So Pooja, you're good to go. Vin, you're good to go. And then on the following Monday, it's Anya. Is that right? Okay. All right, Anya, you're good. And then Tender, you're not in my group, but okay. So Rashmin and Alicia and Michael, I need to schedule you. Mike, did I schedule you on Tuesday? The following Tuesday?
I believe you did.
All right, good. So let's go. Rashmeen and Alicia, I need you to be on either the following Wednesday or the following Thursday,
Could I
Which
do
is-
it Thursday?
which is what's
I was
the,
gonna ask for Wednesday, so that works out.
Okay,
this would
that's good then.
be, okay, so Rashmeen, I'll do you on Wednesday, the 16th.
Yeah.
All right, and Alicia, I'll do you on Thursday, the 17th.
Yeah,
We're good? All
okay.
right, that's good. I just couldn't remember who I had responded to and who I didn't, so this was easier. Cool.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
See you guys.
Bye.
Hi, Mr. Veenstra.
Bye.